So what is it that an economic collapse looks like? Well, that's what I was talking about in one of the previous videos here on the channel. Folks, Fernando doing another video for the more survivalists, and this is a kind of thing that I've addressed since I started writing and doing content for YouTube. Of course, most of you know that you have my books available on Amazon, Surviving the Economic Collapse, Street Survival Skills. Specifically, Surviving the Economic Collapse is what I saw in Argentina in 2001. It is happening yet again. It is unavoidable at this point because with the kind of inflation and the debt that you have in Argentina and no way of getting away of what's coming, in spite of having a president that is a libertarian, that is saying we're not printing a single cent more, we're cutting back on government spending, but what already has been done cannot be changed. We will go through 1 year of hyperinflation, recession, and poverty will skyrocket yet again in Argentina, and people will suffer yet again more.
Argentina had one of the longest lockdowns in the world. Prices went up, people lost their jobs. And in here, many kids were left behind when schools closed.
Typical of a socialist, far-left government, what you have in Argentina with Peronism is a weird thing. It is definitely is socialist agenda driven, even though, as always, as you well know, all of these socialist governments, the least they care about of all is the poor. They hate poor people. They want to make as many of them and make them suffer as much as they can possibly can. And when the lockdown happened, when we saw what we saw over the world, it was even worse in Argentina. In Argentina, it was, you're not supposed to go. You could not do a damn thing. It was one of the longest lockdowns in the planet. Why? Because it was convenient. It was a way of just hiding people. And you had the different leaders of the socialist movements and the union of teachers, the teachers unions, and the education minister, or the indoctrination ministry, as Javier Milei calls it. All of these people saw a great opportunity of, we cannot go to class. Nope, no, lockdown, COVID, yep. One of the longest ones in the entire planet, and it went on and on. Kids were dropped out of the system. People that were actually studying and trying to make a future for themselves just had no option left. They had nothing to look forward to. This is something that happened all over the world. It was so much worse in Argentina because of the lack of infrastructure, because of the generalized poverty. These people don't have internet. They don't have a computer. Some of them don't even have a cell phone. And yes, this just left them on the side of the world for years.
Rocío is one of them. She lives in a slum near Julio.
Donde nosotros vivimos no hay mucha señal, digamos. Por más que le pida un celular a un compañero o algo, no puedo estudiar porque no hay señal, no hay internet, nada acá abajo.
So she was looking for someone, even if she could borrow a cell phone from someone in the community, there was no signal for her to just try to follow whatever classes she could, whatever things she could do so as to have somewhat of an education. That was not possible for, a couple years, maybe more.
Y bueno, decidí abandonar porque no tenía nadie que me explique. Yo siento que sí, que nos da la espalda el gobierno.
La mitad de los chicos y chicas en Argentina desde el 2020 no tuvieron acceso a la educación de manera remota porque no tenían los dispositivos o porque no tenían la conexión. La mitad, ¿no? Es un montón.
Half of them.
No podía ir a la escuela y me hizo sentir mal porque mi sueño era llegar a ser alguien en la vida, como siempre le prometí a mi mamá y a mi papá, y no pude.
As I promised my mom and dad, this woman, she has a mother, she has a father. It's not one of these. This is the difference sometimes that people don't understand watching this from the United States. It is a completely different scenario. This woman, and yes, she is overweight and she's eating out of the garbage, but she's also saying that she wants to study. She wants to make a better future for herself, as she promised her mom and her dad. But with no classes, no phone, no internet, no nothing, all she has is the slum in which she lives.
Rocio started working at the landfill when she was just 8 years old. She would go in the afternoon after school.
8 years old, working in the landfill.
Now that she can't access any education, this has become her whole life. Sometimes Rocio has no option but to eat what she finds.
Sí, al alimento, si está en buena condición y estar para comer, sí. Sí, a veces se suele encontrar bastante carne. Nosotros lo cocinamos, hacemos jugo y lo cocinamos.
She's not the only one. Many people feed off the rubbish.
Vemos a la gente que está trabajando ahí, papá, mamá, niños pequeños que van ahí, no tanto a reciclar a veces con sus padres, sino a ver qué juntan para comer.
Y se consigue cosas, eso, trae para cocinar, eso ahí. Se trae cosas congeladas, eso, fideos lindos, leche cerrada, galletas.
And I know what you're thinking. Oh, what? I mean, you're in Argentina. There's a huge amount of fertile land. I mean, I saw a few pigs there, horses. Why don't they start, farming? And you know why? because of the same reason that they don't do it in Venezuela. For the same reason they don't do it in poor, dirt African countries. Because all of that, which you think is, oh, I do it here. Well, you do it in the United States because you have everything else that you need. When you don't have a damn thing, you don't have the tools, you don't have the seeds, you don't have the machinery, you don't have the irrigation, you don't have the financing, you don't have the education, you don't have any of those things. Just because you have a bunch of extension of land, it doesn't mean that you will start living off the land. That is the typical survivalist fantasy that we see time and again, that simply cannot be replicated in places where they're going through this stuff. Oh, but I could. Sure. What, starting from zero? You would, sure. It is so easy to not put yourself in the shoes of these people. You could strip me butt naked and drop me anywhere in the world. I will find a way around. I know that. I know that because I have the mindset, the knowledge, the education, the tools at my disposal. I can pick up a phone and find things that I need no matter what happens, right? That's great for me. Fantastic. Yuppie. Good for Fernando. Great. It's not the same for these people. These people don't have that education. They don't have that knowledge. They don't have the language that I'm speaking to you right now, which immediately puts me above the great majority of people that only speak one language fluently. If you speak two languages fluently, no matter where you are on the planet, you're probably going to be far better off than the people around you, simply because of the education that you have. Can you do it on your own with Duolingo and a cell phone? Sure. Is everyone like that? No, most definitely not. And especially when you don't even have a cell phone and you don't even have internet signal to even download an app to begin with. And the idea of buying a cell phone when you're making $2 a day, which you probably spend mostly on food and the other basic necessities that you need to stay alive, it is kind of daunting. It is kind of a little bit too much. So have some sympathy, but above all, understand how these things end up happening. This did not happen overnight. It was not from one day to the next that Argentina ended up like this. It was 100 years of grinding, of that socialist bullshit agenda of voting for Peronist governments that promise that they will be looking after the poor when the only thing they do is create more poor and get rich themselves.
But what Julio and Rocio are going through doesn't just happen in slums. Argentina experienced the highest growth in food insecurity between 2014 and 2020 in all of Latin America.
las caras tristes, los ojos vacíos, eso es desnutrición.
Now, more than 1/3 of the population doesn't have access to enough nutritious food. The war in Ukraine has made things even worse. Inflation is
The war in Ukraine. She mentions the war in Ukraine twice in this damn thing. BBC. Fuck.
at more than 60% in Argentina. Only second.
No lady in Ukraine. It's not the war in Ukraine. War in Ukraine is terrible, mostly for Ukrainians. But what you see in Argentina is 100 years of left-wing governments, Peronist governments, socialist, corrupt bastards, just sacking, looting the entire country, printing more money. Argentina is a country that has, it has oil. It can produce food for the entire planet. It is so ridiculously stupid that there's even one single hungry person in the country. It just goes down to that. Corruption. Corrupt bastards that just loot the country for their own benefit. There's massive extensions of land, food production, exports. You have massive potential. But when you have an economy that all it does is increase the deficit, go into more debt, and print more and more money, making inflation worse year after year, decade after decade. Just let's remove those zeros and start all over. That's how you end up like this. This is the consequence of the welfare state. This is something I want you guys to understand because you're not here yet. If you're watching this from the United States or you're watching this from most of the civilized world, first world countries, Europe, and you think, oh, but our socialism is better. No, it's the same damn thing. You have the communist China, you have the Mao massacres, you have the poverty in Argentina, you have the poverty in Venezuela. This is what socialism does. This is what the welfare state does. Are you seeing that people are any better in the United States these days? The economy is doing great. It's fantastic. Awesome. How are people doing? How is the welfare state working in the United States? How is the welfare state working anywhere in the fucking planet? No, it doesn't. It never does. It never has worked. This is what finally, for fuck's sake, finally people understood in Argentina, and that's why they voted for the first libertarian president in the planet. These people that you were probably brainwashed into thinking that they are all scum. You know, they're poor people, so they're scum. They do this to them. Look how many kids they have. They're shit. Yeah, the globalists want to make you think that the world is overpopulated. These people voted against handouts. These are almost 60% of the country voted for a libertarian president so as to cut the handouts, so as to deal with even more misery than they already know, just for the small chance of maybe in a couple years their kids having a better future. That makes me more proud than actually winning the World Cup. I'm not even kidding, really. It is something to be proud of. People in Argentina are special. We are different. You think that the American exceptionalism is a thing? Try voting against handouts when you're eating out of the garbage like these people did. Javier Milei got the most votes in these places. These people eating out of the garbage, these are the ones that voted for Javier Milei. You know the ones that didn't vote for Milei, for a libertarian president? The corrupt bastards in the government that have millions of dollars. Their mistresses have millions. You have no idea how rich Argentina is and how much money you can steal from such a rich country if you are part of the corrupt system. The mistress of nobody in one little municipality of a tiny fucking little town, that mistress will have a couple $1 million worth in apartments in US, in properties, in real estate. Miami or whatever the fuck she likes going to. That's the mistress of a nobody in the government. That's how much money Argentina has. but they're sealing it. And it's not going to where it's supposed to go. Because if you would remove the corrupt left-wing government, things would balance on its own. A guy that is working his ass off all day long would make a decent living.
Rosillo has no option but to... Only second to Venezuela in the region. Food is ever more expensive.
La pandemia en Argentina profundizó una crisis preexistente y esa crisis ya golpeaba mayoritariamente a los hogares con niños. Eso generaba, por ejemplo, que haya niños que tuvieran que salir a trabajar.
This means that for many teenagers surviving off this land...
Look at all of that land. Look at how green it is. Besides all of this dump, all of that green land. Oh, why is there not? They're lazy, you know. You don't get it. You don't start a farm. Oh, but I saw a guy on YouTube. Yeah, sure, YouTube. That's great. I'm doing YouTube here right now. YouTube revenue, sure. You know what? It pays so much more when you're doing it in the United States with US ad money, not Argentine money. And try getting enough capital so as to start a farm from this. From zero. Nothing at all. Oh, I could do it. Sure you could. Of course you could. Everyone else is dumb motherfucker and you're the smartest guy on the planet. But I'm telling you, the great majority of these people that you see here, they are actually working. I mean, all of these people, they're working in the garbage all day long for pennies.
Landfill and building their whole lives around it is their only option. The future looks uncertain, but Julio and Rosillo remain hopeful.
Mi sueño es tener mi casa y tener mi laburo, todo.
Realmente quiero volver a participar de vuelta de la escuela para poder a ver si puedo cumplir mi sueño. Lo veo un poco lejano, pero la esperanza nunca se pierde.
Anyway, I just want to show you guys this because this is what really happens when you have these welfare politics. The idea of, oh, we're doing so much for the poor, for the ones that are struggling the most, for the ones left behind, for the minorities, you know, that crap. While at the same time, you see more and more people being left behind. Hopefully you're not there, man. Hopefully you're not you're not in a country like this with this reality in which to live. But it wasn't always like that. It was once a striving, one of the richest countries in the planet, if you can believe that. It could be again, but you don't do things wrong for 100 years and change that overnight. If Javier Milei, damn fingers crossed, if Javier Milei actually does at least half of what he has promised, things will eventually change for once and for all. And little bit of hope that I have, even if he does not do a damn thing, even if he does prove to be complete liar, the message that he had as a libertarian, that is very powerful, and people understand that that's the way to go forward. Ending up with insane government spending, inflated public administration and public work and all of that bullshit, and finally putting freedom and the option of business doing its thing and allowing that to rise the general level of the quality of life of people on its own merit, which is what free market is supposed to be. Free market is one of those words that's thrown around a lot, especially by huge corporations that don't believe in it because they are socialist, rich assholes themselves. They like the idea of socializing their debt and capitalizing on the profit. So that's not a real capitalist. That is a damn Soviet kind of agenda that they have going on. You know, the oligarchs of the socialist woke agenda with capitalist bank accounts. Yeah, it's confusing at times, but not really once you understand what they're doing. All of that lobbying, all of that brainwashing, all of that dividing people into hating one another because of race, religion, color of skin, economic levels, realities, and so on. I know this because, I've seen this myself. I've seen some of the disaster that you have in terms of drugs, poverty. I've seen lots of people that work there. Some of the hardest working people I've seen anywhere, not only in Argentina, but pretty much in many other countries as well. Some of the hardest working people happen to be some of the people that are not really doing all that well. Sometimes it's a matter of them not being, savvy enough as to find a better way. But this thing, people working all day long in a dumpster and barely surviving, and them telling you we would even make less money working in the factory that's over there. I'm working here in the dumpster because with my 9-to-5 job in the factory, I would even make even less money. That's not on you, man. That's not on you. See you next time, guys. Take care.